Well, it's been nearly a week since USC and UCLA shook up the college football world by announcing they were going to be leaving for the Big Ten. Well, there hasn't been any other teams that have made shocking announcements, but according to a lot of rumors, it looks like there is a lot of momentum towards a lot of craziness ahead. Today, we're going to be talking about the latest rumors surrounding the Big 12, as they are currently in deep discussions to add between 4 and 6 Pac-12 teams to their conference. Before we get to today's video, make sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you're watching this video, odds are you love college football, and odds are you aren't subscribed to my channel, so make sure to subscribe to one of the best college football communities here on YouTube. Also, if you can give this video a like, I would greatly appreciate it as well. It helps out with that confusing YouTube algorithm and helps share the video with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. According to an article today from CBS Sports, the Big 12 is involved in deep discussions to add multiple Pac-12 programs as a way to shore up its membership in the wake of the USC and UCLA defection to the Big 10 that took place last week. As of right now, at least 4 teams are being considered, with the potential for the Big 12 to add more as realignment continues to shake out. Like I mentioned in last week's video, it looks like the 4 teams being considered are Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah. But there is also strong consideration of adding both Oregon and Washington to the Big 12 as an 18-team league, which would be the largest in all of the FBS. There's also the possibility of a merger between the Big 12 and the Pac-12 in some sort of form. But it looks like the Big 12 has to be aggressive, and they have to be aggressive as quickly as possible in order to avoid other teams being potentially poached. There are a lot of reports that both Oregon and Washington might end up in the Big 10. There's also reports that Stanford and Utah could potentially end up in conferences other than the Big 12 as well. According to the article, one industry source suggested that the Big 12 should quickly expand with Pac-12 teams, then go to market early with rights holders to get ahead of the Pac-12. The Pac-12's current deal with Fox and ESPN expires in 2024, while the Big 12's deal with those same companies expires 1 year later in 2025. Now, adding those 4 teams that I mentioned makes a ton of sense, as I mentioned it in last week's video. Colorado has a long history with the conference, and Utah has a great rivalry with BYU, who's also going to be added to the Big 12. Not to mention, Utah is one of the up-and-coming teams in all of college football, as they've been one of the better teams over the last few years. Then you add both Arizona schools, who already have a great rivalry, but you're adding that Phoenix market. I think that this would be the perfect move for the Big 12, and if they were able to add a few teams from the ACC maybe, then all of a sudden, I think they're able to compete. If they're able to add a couple teams from the ACC, I think this gives them a strong chance to compete with the Big 10 and the SEC. Well, at least a better chance than they currently have. The reason why the Big 12 is in a really good spot is because there are no teams currently in that conference that are likely going to leave for the Big 10 or the SEC, whereas the ACC has a number of teams that are likely going to be wanted by those 2 power conferences, which is why I think the Big 12 will be able to add a number of ACC teams if they strike early on. Plus, if the Big 12 was able to jump quickly by adding these 4 Pac-12 teams, maybe both Oregon and Washington are sitting there going, we don't want to take a chance of waiting for these other conferences to get anything going, we want to follow those teams and go to that conference. So by potentially moving quickly, maybe the Big 12 is able to add those 2 power teams as well. So if that ends up happening with the Big 12 and they add those 4 teams, what's the next step for the Big 10? According to Jeff Erman, they have their eyes set on a number of teams already. Here's what he tweeted yesterday. I was told this is, or is close to, the Big 10's wish list, but it's a fluid and very well guarded process. How was the UCLA-USC news kept silent? Amazing. So who knows how it'll develop. Number 1, Notre Dame. Number 2, Oregon. Number 3, Stanford. And number 4, North Carolina. Source not as confident as North Carolina as others. Now this makes a lot of sense, as it seems like everyone is waiting for Notre Dame to make a decision. I feel like once Notre Dame announces where they're headed to next, that domino will fall and we'll see a number of teams leaving conferences. So if Notre Dame goes to the Big 10 like a lot of people expect, how does that shape everything out? Now, looking at this tweet, I did find it interesting, not that Oregon was number 2, because again, it makes sense that they go to the Big 10 and join UCLA and USC, but that Stanford is number 3. Now, this probably makes sense because Stanford obviously is one of the best academic schools in the entire country, so of course the Big 10 would want to add them. So let's say Oregon goes and they're able to get Stanford as well, that leaves Washington. And if I were to guess, I would think Washington at that point would want to join the Big 12, so that way they're able to join other Pac-12 programs. But if that were to be the case, that would give them an odd amount, which means they'd have to add one more Pac-12 team or maybe a team from the ACC. So maybe they can add a Washington State, an Oregon State, or a Cal, but it's tough to see any of those three teams having much value when, like I said, you can get a potential ACC team. Like it mentions here, North Carolina is on the Big Ten's wish list, but they're not as confident as the other teams. So maybe North Carolina ends up moving to the Big 12. Like I said, this entire thing is an absolute mess, but I think once a few teams move, then the dominoes will fall. My next video is going to be me pretty much going over all the conferences and what I think ultimately happens with the Power 3 conferences that are essentially going to form. As of right now, it's pretty confusing because, like I said, the Pac-12 is still standing and the ACC is still standing, but I think it's going to end up turning into 3 Power 5 conferences. Last week, I thought it was going to be 2, but with how the Big 12 is looking to expand, I definitely think they're going to be the 3rd conference that's standing. So those were the latest rumors and news pieces that I was able to find. I haven't necessarily found anything in regards to ACC moves or any other moves in regards to the Pac-12 and the Big 10. As of right now, it seems like the move with the most momentum are these 4 teams from the Pac-12 going to the Big 12 in regards to Arizona State, Arizona, Utah, and Colorado. Now, as a Pac-12 fan and as an Arizona State fan, although I'm pretty bummed to see the Pac-12 folding, this would be the next best thing. I think this would be a great move for these Pac-12 teams, and I think it'd be a really good move for the Big 12, not only in regards to college football, but in regards to other sports as well. So although I don't want to guarantee that anything happens, I think this specific move is most likely going to happen in regards to all the realignment that potentially will go down. Like I said, I'll be dropping a video with all of my conference realignment and where I think teams are going to end up, but as of right now, it looks like the Big 12 is going to get a little bigger, and it looks like the Pac-12 is going to get a little smaller. So what are your thoughts on both Arizona schools, Colorado, and Utah potentially joining the Big 12? Do you think it's a smart move for the Big 12 to add those teams, or do you think those Pac-12 teams should stay put with the hopes of saving the conference? Whatever your thoughts are on the entire situation, let me know in the comment section down below. Also, let me know what kind of videos you'd potentially like to see in regards to all the realignment news. Would you like to see videos of me specifically breaking down conference by conference, or would you like to see videos where I pretty much go over all the Power 5 conferences, trimming them down to the Power 3 or maybe the Power 4, depending on what happens? Again, whatever videos you'd like to see, whatever your thoughts are on the entire situation going on in college football, let me hear it down below. I'll be interacting with you guys all day today and replying to as many comments as I possibly can. If you guys haven't done so yet, now is still the perfect time to smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications so you don't miss any college football videos. With how crazy this might be over the next couple weeks, having those notifications on might be a necessity. Also, don't forget to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that YouTube algorithm, plus it helps share the video with more college football fans. Not to mention, it only takes a second to do. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you all in my next video.